Procurement and Contracting Committee be called to order for Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Tillman.
I'm here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Schrein. Mr. Schrein is absent at the moment. Ms. Baker.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, is there any public comment this morning?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay. And can we have approval of the minutes from the May 1st, 2019 meeting, please?
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from May 1st. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first matter referred to committee.
Resolution number 2019-0118, approving right-of-way exhibit as set forth in plat number M-5036 for replacement of Jefferson Avenue Bridge number 00.57 between West 3rd Street and the Cuyahoga River in the city of Cleveland.
Okay. And if you could just please state your name for the record.
Nicole English with Public Works. So what we're asking for is authority to acquire right-of-way related to this Jefferson Avenue Bridge replacement. Recently, we came forward with welfare and convenience on this project. This is in the city of Cleveland. There's 5 owners and 5 parcels. I think that's incorrect in the briefing you might have got. It said 4 and 4, but there's actually 5. The railroad, East Ohio Gas, and 3 companies. One is St. Mary's Cement, which is the big one, which is why it's driving the right-of-way estimate to be $500,000. They're the sole property that's on the opposite side of the bridge. And we probably, in our design, we're thinking we're going to have to cut off their access for probably a month, where we'll take the bridge out and set a new bridge in. And so that'll drive what we have to pay them, because essentially we will shut them down for about a month. So the idea is to acquire the right-of-way by the end of 2019 and then start construction next year.
Okay. So explain, so this is authority to acquire the right-of-way over the Jefferson Avenue Bridge. So explain the 500,000. How did you come up with that estimate?
We have right-of-way consultants that we use, and so the ones where we're taking small temporary takes, they're fairly easy. They can figure out what the property is worth, and then you apply a factor as far as how long you're going to be using it for. Most of this is temporary. However, the St. Mary's is a little bit different because we're cutting their access off, because the only way to construct the bridge, based on all the investigation we've done, is to put it out of commission for a short time. And so they will have no access to their property. And so that takes, we hire an appraiser that has to go in and actually look at their books and see how much revenue they generate in the time frame that we're going to close them down. Now, we have been meeting with them and giving them briefings on what we're thinking about doing, and they have told us February is the best month to close them down, so we're trying to target that so that we're not disrupting them. They have another facility somewhere down in the flats that they can shift most of their work to. It's just not as robust as this one, so they might have to invest a little bit of money. So all these things will be taken into consideration from our consultant when they prepare the actual appraisal.
Okay. And what is St. Mary's again?
Cement.
Cement. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
So is what we pay to St. Mary's going to be agreed to in advance, or is it going to be a determination of a per day amount, and then however many days we in fact have to shut them down, you multiply that by the per day amount, or how is this going to be figured?
So our engineers have given us a 30 and a 60-day window to look at for right now, while because they just started really getting into the details of design. So we're going to get 2 appraisals. One would be for the 30-day closure, one would be for a 60. And as we're closer to knowing exactly what we need, we'll give St. Mary's the one that we think is appropriate. Now, if we go over, if we say 30 and we go over, we'll owe them a damage claim. But we like to go in with an amount that is set up front, so the contractor knows how many days they have, and St. Mary's will know how many days they're going to be out. So you essentially, if they come in at 28 days and we bought 30, it is what it is. But you try to come up with what aligns with your engineering and the construction best you can, so that we have enough that we can actually get it constructed. But if you go over, then they can file construction damage claims to recoup some more money. But we hate to give too much you go for 60, but yet it only takes 32, then we've paid too much. So we're trying to align ourselves between the engineers and the appraisals as best we can at this point.
So, why don't we negotiate a per day number rather than doing it up front?
Well, because the owner wants to understand how long they're gonna be out of business too. So, and then it gives us something to put in the contract for the contractor to limit them, right? So if we can apply damages to the contractor if they go over that amount too. So we have to set something up, that's realistic. So we've talked to a couple contractors also to get an understanding of how long really would it take you to pull the bridge out and put a new bridge in. And right now it's closed to one-way traffic, so there's only one lane available because it is load limited right now. So they already realize, the bridge is a bit of a problem, and they know we need to fix it because it's in bad shape. And this is one of the bridges, if you recall, that wasn't identified as ours up until about 5 years ago. Cleveland, it was in their inventory, and then due to law changes and we did some inspections, we found that it really probably should be a county bridge, and so now it's reverted to us. So that's what we're trying to get it fixed up.
But is this the one that you said that once it's completed, it's gonna go to the city of Cleveland?
That's our plan, yes, to vacate the right-of-way, because no longer does this road serve a general utility, because it does not cross the river beyond St. Mary's. I think years ago, because there's still right-of-way, that it used to cross the river, and so then it passed through multiple cities. Now it sort of dead ends. So it does not meet the definition of a county road anymore, but it was never vacated. So what we saw with Old Rockside Road, we went to court over that one, and it ruled that it was still ours because we never vacated it. So we have to follow the right procedure after, and we think that Cleveland will be amenable to that. I mean, we've talked to them about it. Once we build them a new bridge, it should be a 75-year bridge. There shouldn't be many problems with it, so they should be willing to take the vacation at that point.
And refresh my memory, what's the total estimated project cost on this?
I want to say it's just about 2 million. So the right-of-way is a significant cost. Was it sorry, I don't have that paper in front of me, but it's not, the bridge itself isn't super expensive in comparison. It's just because it's over the railroad, working with these owners is a little bit difficult.
So the right-of-way is a significant part of the cost?
Yes, so we looked at options eliminating the bridge and putting just an at-grade crossing in a little bit further north. The railroad does not really want to talk about that. I mean, we've asked them, we've been meeting for the last year about it. They aren't interested in an at-grade crossing, even though the train only serves St. Mary's. They don't want to put at-grade crossings in if they don't have to. And then we looked at another approach where you come through a different property to the south, that we could build sort of an access road, and we haven't been able to get anywhere on that front either. So this is our best option. Even with the right-of-way costs, we think this is our cheapest option. And sort of a prefab bridge is what they would do. They'd build the bridge off-site, come over, essentially drop it in, connect it in within a month, and be ready to go.
Any other questions?
Through the chair to Nicole English, project cost is $3 million. I remember you talking about it a couple weeks ago. Does that include the right-of-way?
No, that was just the construction cost.
Okay, and how do we determine who the consultant for the designs are?
This one we are sending to our general engineering contractor. So we hire, and actually you'll see later on the agenda, we hire every year 2 general engineering services contracts. And if a design is around 200,000 or less, we go through the general contract, because we bid out any RFQ out, with qualifications, because it's engineering services. Anything sort of over 200,000, we would go out for. So this will go to one of our general engineering
So we
contractors.
keep those engineers for roughly a year?
Yeah, the contract is 3 years, but normally we task them out within about a year of the work, and then they just have to finish it up over the next couple years.
Next question is February really a good time for working on a bridge? I haven't, I don't know what the bridge looks like. I can't.
The way they're gonna do this with the prefab bridge, they sort of build it off-site, and they can work in the winter and drop the bridge in. There'll be some concrete work that they'd have to wait for the weather to get better, but as far as the bridge itself, they are gonna be able to do that in February. based on our preliminary.
And will it be accessible after they drop the bridge
Yes.
in, even though the cement won't be done?
Yeah, they're able to, if they have to put some stone in the meantime to get the trucks across, but then they'll connect in and finish it up over the summer, but there will be traffic on it at that point in time.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Baker?
Yes, just so I'm clear, the 500,000 includes the damage claim?
No.
No, this is our best estimate at what we were gonna pay up front. Now, if something were to happen where we pay them for 30 days and then we go 35 days and they wanna come back on us, that could be an extra cost. But for now, we think we need the 30 days and we think this is the cost. Until we get the official appraisal, we don't know, but this was their, and we have our consultants do an initial right-of-way estimate, but then they actually have to go in and do an appraisal where they look at their books and everything, so.
So this 500,000 does not include the closing of this in St. Mary's?
No, it does include that.
Okay.
But just our upfront estimate, so the 30-day closure. If for something happened where it went on longer than we pay them or
beyond that.
anticipate, there could be additional costs.
And secondly, how often does it happen that we would pay, because this would be private sector, St. Mary's Cement, right? How often does it happen that we pay damages like that with all the construction that we see and all the storefronts and that are, hindered by one lane traffic or maybe,
Right.
hourly traffic that has, there's just a lot of inconveniences out there. I know that this is a complete shutdown.
Right, so
But
that's
how
what.
often does that happen that we would allow for a damage claim?
Rarely. So we don't pay if it's just an inconvenience. If there's still access maintained, you don't have to pay. I mean, that's based on the federal laws.
Right.
So as long as there is access maintained in some fashion, whether it be congested, reduced capacity, you still don't pay for that damage because you'd be paying everybody, because then how do you figure out who you pay, how much? So the reason we're paying for this is because you're completely cutting off their access. So once you completely cut off someone's access, that you would owe for.
Is that right? Okay.
So I know it's unfortunate, and we see it on lots of jobs where the businesses are upset, and Euclid Corridor was an example that lots of businesses which claimed
Right.
that they were put out of business from the construction,
Right.
but the federal law doesn't allow you to pay for that.
Okay, so this is very rare.
Yes, very rare. I mean, we typically try to do everything we can to maintain access, which is why you don't see it. This case, we exhausted our options at constructing any other way besides having to pull the bridge out.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Conwell has a follow-up question.
One final, did St. Mary's bid on the cement portion of the contract?
We have not bid the job yet, but they could be a piece of it. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, we'll bid it once we're ready for construction. We don't have construction plans yet, but once we have construction plans, it'll go out as a public bid, just like everything
Would that
else.
be any conflict or anything if they did that?
I don't think, because it's a public bidding process, right? So they have to give a price, it's based on price, so I wouldn't see a conflict.
Okay.
Okay, with that, then I see you're looking for this under suspension.
We'd appreciate that so we could get
Okay.
moving.
So I'll make that motion for suspension of the rules. And I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. If we could have the next ordinance read, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2019-0119, approving right-of-way exhibit as set forth in plat number M-5037 for the Phase 2 replacement of Lewis Road Culvert number 01.34 in Olmsted Township.
Okay. If you could just state your name for the record.
Nicole English with Public Works again. So this is a similar action, much lower cost. This is Lewis Road Culvert in the township, which because we maintain the township, that this is ours to replace. And there's 3 owners on 3 parcels that are impacted, very minor impacts to them. The estimate for the right-of-way is only $3,000 for this project. And the plan is to acquire this over the summer and construction happen in the fall, if possible, of this project.
Okay. And this is to do work on a culvert out there?
Correct, a replacement.
All right. Just real quick, I know we've talked about this many times. The townships, is the county's authority, is that through the Ohio Revised Code on that? Is that how it works? Okay. All right, any questions from my colleagues?
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Are the acquisitions permanent or temporary?
these ones are, one is temporary and there's 2 channel easements that we'll gain. So it's essentially giving us access to the channel that the culvert then, I'm trying to think if this is over a stream, wherever the waterway then leads out. So we sort of buy the channel easement, then we can also maintain the channel from here forward with that channel easement.
Okay, fine,
So they still own the property underneath, it just gives us the easement.
sure.
Okay, any follow-up questions? Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair to Ms. English, how does the individuals that are impacted get paid or reimbursed? How do we do that
So we have a
process?
right-of-way consultant that goes out and meets with them. They do an appraisal, then they go out and meet with them and present the offer. And if it's accepted by the owner, they sign off, and then we bring it through. Depending on the amount, it either, if it's under, doesn't have to even come to Board of Control. Sometimes when they're over, you'll see them on Board of Control agendas. And then if it's significant, over 500, you'd see it at council. And then we just get the check and take
Is
it out
that
to the
after
owner.
the work is done?
No, before the work is done. But if we can't agree, right? So sometimes you'll see an appropriation request. If we can't agree on something, we can file the appropriation, and then we put the deposit of what the appraisal is into the court. And at that point, we can start the project while we work out the details. But as long as they're agreeing and we don't go to court, we pay them ahead of time.
Okay, and as far as a time frame, I would assume you're looking for suspension of the rules on this as well?
Yeah, that would help on this one too.
Okay, I'll make that motion for suspension of the rules on R 2019-0119. Can I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, the ayes have it. Next ordinance, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2019-0120, making awards on requisition number 42131 to various providers, each in the amount not to exceed $400,000 for general engineering services for the period 6/12/2019 through 6/11/2022.
Nicole English again with Public Works. So this is what I was talking about, the general engineering contracts that we hire every year. We do 2 at a time, and for this one, we had one was an SBE set aside. So there was 17 proposals submitted, 2 vendors were selected. One is the SBE set aside, which is Suhail and Suhail Inc., and the other is TRC Engineers. These are scored, it's qualifications, so they're scored on qualifications, and these were the 2 highest scored firms. Even the SBE set aside still has to meet the diversity goals, and they both did. 15% SBE, 10% MBE, 5% WBE. These contracts are used for our smaller projects around, under 200,000, resurfacing projects, smaller bridges, culverts, any surveying needs we might have. It's sort of a catch-all engineering contracts that we use for road and bridge projects. And they're task order based. So we have some ideas of what we're going to use them for, but anything can come up, and we then individually task out the projects.
Okay, as far as the engineering companies that are eventually chosen, so you say they're task order based. How long does this run for? I see through 2022. Is that?
Correct. We put in 3 years. I mean, typically within the first year, we've tasked them for all their tasks, but a design contract could take a couple years to get done and constructed. So that's why we put the 3-year timeline on it, so we have them available. But most of the work is already sort of doled out within about a year.
Okay. Okay, questions from my colleagues?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
How many applied under the set aside?
I believe 4 were SBEs. So we worked with Lenora on this because we had the last couple of times we didn't get some very good SBE participation. So prior to releasing this award, we actually called a meeting with all the SBEs that are registered that we thought could do this work, and asked them sort of why they didn't apply and is there anything holding them back. And so we did get increased. Last time there was only 2 SBEs applying, this time 4. And they didn't rank as high as the other firms. Obviously, there's 17. There's big firms that can do lots of work. And so we worked with Lenora on a strategy that we called just the SBEs in for an interview to do sort of the second ranking of the SBEs separate. And so that gave our staff a good feel for these smaller firms and, feeling comfortable with one that they could award. And so we scored the SBEs as a separate pool. after we had selected the first firm out of the general pool. And so that was with OPD's recommendation as to how to do that. So we got 4. I mean, that's better than 2 in the past. And it gave us, some choice then. So it worked out well.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Baker?
Are these 2 that were they selected in the prior contract? Are they new or are they?
New, neither one of them have
Neither
had a
one.
prime contract yet, right?
Thanks.
And then I see this as June 12th start date.
Yeah, so we can wait, right? That's the next, I think that's how we set the date, based on going 3 readings. Is
I
that
think we'll
correct?
get 3 readings in, right? No, we won't.
No,
I'm sorry, I believe that's past the following council meeting. I'm gonna check.
June 11th should be the next council meeting, so the 12th should work. So if it's the 12th, we can go 3 readings.
1 today, then we have a meeting.
The 28th, you have a meeting, and then June 11th.
Council meeting's the 28th and then June 11th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, so this can go 3.
okay.
That's how we had set it up.
So with that, then we'll move this on to second reading.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion
I'm
to,
sorry, motion for
to
second reading.
refer this resolution to the full council favorably for second reading.
Okay, thank you. Since I move forward on second reading. Next ordinance, Madam Clerk, if you could
We
please
need
read.
the yeas and nays.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, Council. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could read the next resolution. I was thrown off by not doing something on suspension of rules, so, okay.
Resolution number 2019-0121, making awards on requisition number 43995 to various providers, each in amount not to exceed $300,000 for construction management support services for the period 6/12/2019 through 6/11/2022.
Nicole English with Public Works again. So this is similar to the last contract we talked about, but for construction. So we hire construction management support services every year also. And these are sort of task order based depending what comes up. This supplements our in-house construction staff. So sometimes it might be they just need to supply us an inspector on a project. Sometimes it's related to scheduling. It could be if we're having a problem with a contractor and we need some support related to delay claims, or, we use this for various reasons. There was 4 proposals submitted. We've selected 2 vendors. Of the 4 that are submitted, they've all worked with us in the past. This is kind of a small pool of people who do this. So the 2 selected have had contracts in the past, but actually all 4 have at different times that had submitted. And so these were ranked on a RFQ, so a quality-based selection, and these were the 2 highest ranking firms.
Okay, questions from my colleagues? Mr. Miller?
Since you've worked with all of these firms in the past, do you have measures of their past performance, and how much does that factor into your rating system?
Part of the scoring system is firm's experience, is what we call it. And I want to say it's around 25 of the 100 points. And so when we meet the selection committee, it's made up of some folks in the administration of public works, but then also our construction department staff. And so they directly give us input as to how these firms have performed in the past. So it's, I would say, a significant amount of the score, how well they've done. But we also do we have reference forms that they submit. So if it's someone who we've never worked with in the past, we don't want to punish them because we've never worked for them. So we do call references, and we use those as some feedback in our meetings as well, so that we're not not letting someone in because we don't know about them and just giving it to people we know have done good work. So that's worked really well in the past, which is how you see on the GES that we just did, 2 new firms that we've never worked with. They had good references, they presented a nice proposal and scored well.
And do we have any SB, MB, or any such goals on this contract?
Yes, so they both met the diversity goals of 15% SBE, 10% MBE, and 5% WB.
And how did they meet those goals? Is it within their own firm, or is
No.
it through subcontracting, or how do they do that?
QCS may be SBE themselves Hill is not. So I think they've all subbed the rest of the work. But even if QCS is the SBE, they still have to meet the other goals too.
Sure, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, what's, I see this is also a 6/12/19.
Correct. So we'll go 3 readings.
Okay, so with that, I'll make a motion to move this on to full council for second reading. Could I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to move this on to second reading. All those in favor say aye.
Hi,
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you could read the next resolution.
Resolution number 2019-0122, making an award on requisition number 44128 to Independence Excavating in the amount not to exceed $8,945,609.95 for construction of the Towpath Trail Stage 4.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is awarding construction contract for the last stage of the Towpath Trail, finally. So this 4 bids were taken out, 3 were received. We're selecting the lowest bidder, which is Independence Excavating. They were 4% under the engineer's estimate. There's an 8% DBE goal because there's federal money on this. ODOT sets the goal. They are meeting that. And this is paid for 80% out of federal CMAQ funds, which is congestion mitigation air quality, and then 20% is paid for by Cleveland out of their TIF. There's some Clean Ohio grant money, but no county money on our side for construction.
So 80% better.
80% federal, 20% local, meaning Cleveland is coming up with that.
And you said this was the best bidder, lowest bidder?
Lowest bidder, yep,
Okay.
of 3.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this?
sure.
Okay, why not, Dale?
So, who were the other bidders and how much different were their bids?
Perk was the second bidder. They were actually 4.4% over. And Great Lakes Construction, who is our contractor on stage 1 right now, they also bid and they were 4.7% over. So a swing of about 8%.
Yeah, so, the Independence bid was lower by quite a bit.
Correct. Yeah, we're happy with that.
That's why sealed bidding works.
Right.
Yes. And so what's the construction schedule on this?
They hope to start July 1st, and then they have a final completion at the end of June of 2021. So they likely will work through this season. Next season, the reason for the 21 is probably just final landscape, getting into the spring. Essentially, the trail should be complete by the end of next year, and then just some final spring cleanup the following year.
So will the trail actually be open for traffic by the end of next year?
Yeah, I mean, depending on winter weather, they'll open it either right at the end of fall or spring of 21. Then it'll be all connected.
So all of the other ones will be done ahead of this one,
Correct.
is that correct?
Correct.
Wow.
Stage 3 is essentially right now finishing up landscaping on that. The trail is open. People are riding on it. Stage 1, the Harvard to Jennings piece, if you've driven down there, it's kind of under construction. That should be substantially complete by the end of this year. There might be some railroad pieces they're trying to work out just over the railroad, but that'll be done. And then this will be the last piece.
So if this project is 80% federal and Cleveland is putting in part of it and the state is putting in a little bit and we're not putting in any construction money, why are we doing this contract?
So the 4-party agreement that they set probably 15, 20 years ago sort of set up this process that it was the county would run the design and construction, that the metro parks would do the maintain, like the daily maintenance on the trail. Cleveland would own the trail, so they would do major capital on the trail, and then Canalway Partners would sort of shepherd the process and help with fundraising for the project. So that was set up many years ago. We did have a ruling from the prosecutor at the time that said this was an okay setup for us, that they didn't want us putting road and bridge money into the project because it's an off-road trail. As far as the county engineer's money, the road and bridge. However, we were able to have staff time spent on it and run the project. So this has been set up for many years.
I think overall we got a good deal.
Yes. We're getting some good credit for running the project.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there any advantage, given that this is in 4 stages, that the first or second or third stage contractors have an advantage because they have done it, they've proven themselves, and maybe be more efficient in the trails that they may bid on? It seems odd that perhaps there wouldn't be an edge for them.
We actually thought Great Lakes maybe would come in low because they're on stage 1 right now. It connects just up the road. So, but again, it's low bid, so we look at, what the bids are. And it just depends on what work they have. Some people are busy with other jobs now once this one comes in, and so they don't really need it. Or sometimes it's if they have a close job nearby where they can haul fill to, because these jobs have a good amount of earthwork that they have to do, and if they have something close, it's cheaper because they're nearby. So you just never know who's going to come in low. We were surprised Great Lakes was higher, as high as they were, since they have stage 1. But
If I may follow, are you satisfied with the stage 1, 2, and 3 from what was proposed and what's being finished?
yeah, I think in general,
general.
they're pretty happy out there. There's been some design issues on stage 1, just utilities that we didn't know about, so not really the contractor's fault, but just trying to deal with some of that stuff out there. And the railroads have been very difficult on stage 1, but again, not at the contractor's fault.
So, I think Yvonne was first.
Okay, Yvonne, and then Mr. Miller.
Nicole, what was I missed the percentage the Great Lakes Construction Company was over.
They were over 4.66, 4.7.
Okay, and do
They
you
were the
know the
highest.
total cost of all the 4 stages?
I don't have that on me, but we definitely can get you that. We are tracking all that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
On stages 1, 2, and 3, how much have we had in the way of subsidiaries on those contracts?
Another thing I can get you, I don't have it on me. I feel like we just presented one on stage 3, maybe at Board of Control not too long ago, but I can get you that list.
So for each of
Yep, for each of them.
1, 2, and 3, I'd like to know what the original contract amount was and what the total amount is of the subsidiaries that we've had so far.
Perfect. Just to clarify, stage 2 was done by the developer. So we had nothing to do with stage 2. That's the piece through Steelyard Commons. So the developer built that himself. So we don't have a stage 2. We just have a 1, 3, and 4.
Okay, so we'll just do 1 and 3.
Okay.
And for 1 and 3, how close are they to completion?
3 is just finalizing landscape. They essentially done. There's just some cleanup on warranty work. And then stage 1 should be substantially complete by the end of the year. There is some construction still going on. I drove down there last week, and it's still quite a bit of construction. But by the end of the season, they should be substantially done. And then finalize landscape probably in the spring on that one.
Okay, fine. So they're about a year behind the schedule that you have in mind for phase 4.
Correct. It was somewhat scheduled that way that like every year a new one would get
Sure.
sold and then wrap up.
Okay.
Okay.
One follow-up.
Ms. Conwell has a follow-up
To
question?
the chair, to Nicole, when did we start all the stages? Was it 2012?
The
don't remember.
sale, so we pre-sold a piece of this stage, actually stage 4, that Scranton, we called it the area of concern. We did that little piece of Scranton where they had gotten some extra grant money to do work in the river where they had some fish habitat and everything. And so that got sold, gosh, that may have been around 2012 first. The planning has been going on for, probably over 15 years, 20 years. But as far as the first contract sale, that was the first piece we sold. We were able to pull that out of stage 4 because they had some extra funding. We did that first to somewhat, get something done. And then we've been progressing ever since.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Miller has another question?
Not a question, I just think that the sooner you can get this up and running, the better off you're gonna be. So I'm gonna make a motion for favorable recommendation on second reading suspension.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we'd like to add Ms. Conwell's name to that. And the ayes have it. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could read the next resolution.
Resolution number 2019-0123, making an award on requisition number 44839 to PERC Company in the amount not to exceed $4,560,424.50 for resurfacing West 130th Street from Bagley Road to Snow Road in the cities of Brook Park, Middleburg Heights, Parma, and Parma Heights.
Okay, and your name for the record?
Nicole English with Public Works again. So this is another construction award. This is for resurfacing of West 130th from Bagley to Snow in the four cities mentioned. There was 10 bid packages taken out, 6 bids received. There was a 7% DBE goal because this is federal, set by ODOT, and they met that. This is 80% using federal funding, 10% from the county, and 10% from each city based on what's the work in their city. And this is going to PERC. They were the low bidder by 18%, significantly under the engineer's estimate. And so we're recommending award to them.
Okay, and when is this work set to start?
We'd like to start around July 1st or earlier if possible. And this would be a 2-year job. So we'll do part of it this year, part of it next year, and wrap it up by October of next year.
Right, okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this? Mr. Miller?
Yes. To Ms. English, who else bid on this?
I thought you were going to ask after you told me, and I don't have the list on me. Lenore, do you? This one, I don't know why it's not attached, but there was 6 total bids, so Lenora normally has the bid tab for me. 130, yeah. Sorry about that, I don't know why I don't have it. And just as a note, this project was one of the NOACA TAM jobs. I know we've talked, Councilwoman, a bit about those that were selected by NOACA, and then the county
okay.
offered to run it because it's in more than one city. So this came through NOACA. So there was 6 bidders, so PERC, Carvo, Vandra Brothers, Katz Construction, CA Agresta, and Fabrizi.
And what kind of range of bids did you get on this?
4547. So the highest bid went up to 5.38, and the lowest being PERC with 456.
And what was the next lowest after PERC?
47. So about,
And whose was that?
that was Carvo. So about 200,000 lower than the next.
Competitive bidding worked well once again.
Yeah, this was a good one, a good amount of interest. I think the project size is, people were interested in it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Ms. Baker?
Yes, and I guess I would ask first, the NOACA choice, what made these roads meet the criteria that NOACA would choose for something as extensive as an over $4 million project? What is this different than other roads that are trying to get the funding? What makes this one stand out?
So this was that last round that they picked on the tip, so a couple years ago, and that's when they focused on that transportation asset management program, which spit out, it looked at traffic, it looked at condition of road, it looked at what you were going to do to fix it and the cost, and it sort of filtered all of that into a score, and this scored high enough. But it was through their transportation asset management. It's essentially a software program they use that feeds into data, and there's a pretty complicated equation they used. I know we asked to see it, and when they showed it to me, I thought, boy, I hadn't seen something that complicated since college. So I don't know if we could exactly calculate it, but their program does. We saw the factors that feed into it, and that's how it was selected. Now, this round of the tip they're going through right now, looking at projects, they are not just depending on that program anymore. They've told us they're going to use that as recommendations, but then they're going to do a little bit more manual work to select projects. So it's not going to be purely based on the TAM.
And I mean, how long has this been on the list for the ask? Have they been waiting a while? Is it like, was it a 10-year project and then turned into 5-year and then here, now it's up?
I'm not clear that they made the ask. I think the last round, NOACA went out and they selected projects, and then they would go to the cities and ask, did you have a plan? Have you already done it? There could have been an ask to NOACA. We were not involved, though, so I'm not sure if they had been asking, but the way that TAM worked the last time, NOACA sort of, they were proactive in picking the projects. There wasn't that like this time around, all the cities got letters and asked them to submit projects. That didn't happen the last time around.
Okay. And then finally, that 18% under the engineer's estimate, is that, why would that be? Why would the engineer estimate
so
that
high.
project and then have it come 18% lower? Whenever you see extremes like that, it makes you wonder, was it just overbid? Were the others closer to the engineer and this was the only one that was that far away?
In general, they were all under. I mean, the highest one was still under by about $200,000. We had been getting calls during bidding that the contractors didn't see where the money was. They actually were questioning the same thing, saying, we don't know
Why?
where you're coming up with that dollar. I think just the length of the project, sometimes you use square footage costs and square yard costs, but then when the project gets so big, you get some efficiencies in there that we don't always calculate on the engineer's side, that maybe the price could have gone down. You're comparing them to other projects that you've recently seen bid. Well, when they're smaller, sometimes you're paying a little more on a smaller job. So I think it was just efficiency of being such a long job that we didn't calculate. So when we got those questions, we did take a look at the plans and just make sure that there wasn't some major, something that we're gonna run into, but we felt comfortable with the bid and we reviewed it and think we're good.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Conwell has a question?
Through the chair to Nicole, why is the county's portion of 10% and the multiple cities only paying 10%? It would seem like since there's multiple cities that they would pay more.
So our idea is for these federal jobs, we typically say the feds will pay the 80% and then we'll split the difference with the municipalities. So that would leave us 10%, and then whichever city it is, if it's one city, they pay the full 10%. But if it's multiple cities, they will split up that 10% based on how much road is in their city. So that's our typical funding strategy on a federal aid job. We call it just 80-10-10. Now, because there's multiple cities, they all make up the 10. So I think it's somewhere around, when I looked at the calculation, like 4-4-2-2, or, there's some fraction of it, 3.5. They all make up that 10%.
We decide to set it up like that. Only reason being is because most of the county roads are out there anyway, and they have long stretches of streets which go through different cities. Well, when you look at compared to the east side, you don't have that. It's just one city. I'm just wondering if that's something.
Yeah, we try to, we can't have a city pay for a road that's not in their city. So we have to say that they only are responsible for the portion in their city. And we stick with that 80-10-10. So to ask them to pay more, if we were only doing the segment in their city, they would have only paid the 10%. So that's just our standard approach to the federal aid jobs.
And I need to, when new county government first started, sorry to say, but Parma got everything.
Oh.
All the roads got done. Hey, I'm sitting here. So I just want to know, I believe this stretch of road was done before. And the reason I'm saying is because when you look at other cities, it's me, 105. I'm fighting to try to get that. It hasn't been done since 1978. So if you could just check and see if we've done this, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
we did a different segment of 130th. I know since I've been here, not this section. I'm just
Go
trying
back
to
to
make the
2012.
councilman
Have you been
happy.
here since 2012?
Yes. So
Okay.
I will look. But no, we did do another section of 130th. Certain
No
roads you're going to
shade.
see, they are significantly like Sprague. You're going to see we've done
Yes.
4 segments of Sprague.
Right.
It keeps coming up. You're going to keep hearing it. But they are different pieces of the road. I could go back and let you know the last time we did this, but it's not since I've been here for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, Parma's big.
That's it. No, it's
We used
a
to always look
second largest municipality in Cuyahoga County.
Right.
Lots of traffic comes through Parma.
And we
And
used
if you've ever driven down some of our streets, you'd hear my constituents complaining just like you're complaining.
And they have a lot of
And-
county
and-
roads.
A lot
I
of
mean,
county
that's,
roads, yeah. So,
know.
if I have to defend myself.
We are still talking with Cleveland on 105th. We're constantly in communication with them on that project. So
Thank you.
yes. Although the next project's in Cleveland, just
Okay, where were we
note.
on this? Any other questions? Any more shade going to be thrown at me? No. With that, Mr. Miller.
he's ready to jump on too.
If you want to start before July, we need suspension. So
Correct. Thank you.
I'm gonna make a motion to recommend Resolution 123 favorably with recommendation for second reading suspension.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All those in favor of suspension of the rules on this legislation? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And while we're at it, I will add my name just for the record, since we're here. Okay. With that, could I have the next resolution read, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2019-0124, making an award on requisition number 44940 to Perk Company in the amount not to exceed $933,461.50 for resurfacing an avenue and a road located in the city of Cleveland.
Nicole
Okay.
English with Public Works. This is what we're calling the 2019 Cleveland operations because there's two roads. It's Eddy and Shaw. They're sort of small segments, so we've paired them together as one project. There was 7 bid packages taken out, 3 received. We're going with the low bidder. They're 2% under the engineer's estimate. There was a goal set of 17% MBE and 6% WBE, which they're meeting. And they were very close to the second lowest bidder by literally $1,300, I think, separated them. And then it went up about $70,000 to the next bidder. So they were all, fairly close within range.
Okay. Ms. Conway would like to add her name.
And this is 80% county and 20% city. This project falls into our operations projects where we fund 80% and the city pays 20.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Mr. Miller?
Who were the other 2 bidders?
I actually have it this time. Perk is the low, CA Agresta was the second, and Shermer was the third.
Wow. It looks like Perk was hungry. They got two
Yeah,
jobs in this round.
I think they need some work. That's what we've heard.
Okay. Any further questions? And then what, you're looking to move this along, I would imagine.
We would appreciate it.
Under suspension, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay, thank you, Ms. English,
Thank you.
especially for all the help you give District 4. So is there any other matters referred to committee by my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. I did speak with the clerk about getting the water company in here per Mr. Schron's request. And so we're looking to try to do that, I think, in June sometime. Okay? Follow up on that discussion. All right, with that, we have a motion to adjourn? And a second? I'll make the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Aye. Have it, and Public Works will adjourn at 10:52 a.m.